Hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel, and in this new video we're going to see how to install VirtualBox on your computer. So to be very specific, what we're going to do is we will install VirtualBox on your Windows 10, and on top of it we'll create a virtual machine and install a flavor of Linux called as Ubuntu. So let's get into it. So what I'm gonna do is I'll go to the official website of VirtualBox. So it's a software developed by Oracle, and it helps you create virtual machines, and then you can run different operating systems on top of it. So I'll just click on download VirtualBox, and so you can see that we have this software ready for different platforms. So we're going to download it for Windows obviously right now, but you can see that it supports Mac, it supports Linux, and couple of other operating systems as well. So I've already downloaded this software. You can see that it's 103 MB. So you'll have to download this software. After that, what you're gonna do is you'll have to download Ubuntu. So you can go to their official website, click on download, and you can go to Ubuntu desktop. Okay, you can see that the latest version is 20.04. So this is the one that we're going to use to create a virtual machine right now. So I've already downloaded the file. This is going to be a time taking thing because the file size is around about 2.67 GB. So you will need these two files. Apart from that, you need to make sure that your computer supports virtualization. Okay, so basically your chipset or your CPU should be having this feature of virtualization, and it should be enabled in the BIOS. Okay, so for more details about whether it's enabled or not, if you're unsure about it, you can just check the link of my blog post given in the description, and you can go through it once. I have a FAQ section over there where I have answered all the frequently asked questions about this particular topic. So in my computer right now, the virtualization is already enabled, and it's up and running. So what I'm going to do is I'll just double click on VirtualBox. I'll start installing the software. So this comes in handy when you don't have to dual boot your computer, and at the same time you want to test out different operating systems. So it's a good platform. So people generally, they are not confident enough to dual boot their computer because you have to create partitions, you have to erase the partitions, you have to install the operating system, and things might go in south if you're not aware of how to do it. So this is the safest way of creating a virtual machine and trying out new operating systems, especially for students, those who want to learn Linux. And so what I'm going to do right now is I'll click on next, and here we have few configurations like do you want option for desktop, for quick launch? You can just configure the way you want. I'll click on next, and this is a note warning that temporarily your internet will be disrupted because it installs some drivers related to network. So it'll reset your connection for a couple of minutes or something. So if you're downloading something or you're working on the internet, make sure that you don't do this installation in that particular flow. So right now I don't have any downloads or anything going on, so I'll just proceed. So I'll click on install, and so it'll start installing. So once this is installed, what we're going to do is we will open this software and we will create a virtual machine. So creating an virtual machine is something which lets the software use your computer's resources. Okay, and that's how it basically creates a virtual machine for us. So what we're gonna do is we are gonna click on new. Okay, and you will see a wizard which pops up, and it will help you to create a virtual machine. So it's a guided flow basically, which will guide you through the creation of a virtual machine. So right now I'll just give some name to my machine. Okay, you can give any name that you want, and if you observe one thing, if I just start typing Ubuntu here, it will change this type and the version. So we have different operating systems. You can see you have Microsoft, you have Linux, you have Solaris, you have IBM, Mac OS, and a couple of other operating systems as well. So I'll just keep it on Windows right now, and you can see that you have different versions of Windows that So whichever you are going to install, you have to select that. So let's just keep it on whatever. Okay, because this is not what we are going to install. We want the type to be Linux and the version to be Ubuntu. So I wanted to show you one thing. If you just start typing Ubuntu here, you can see that the type has already changed. Okay, so this is a pretty good feature. If you just type the name of the operating system, it understands what you are going to install. So that's about it. And it's generally a good tendency to give a prefix, okay, to prefix or a suffix to your machine indicating what kind of operating system it's using. Okay, so this is it. You'll give some name to your machine. You will decide where you want to install this machine, and you'll decide the type of operating system that you're going to install and what version of the operating system. So one thing here that you'll have to notice, if you don't have a 64-bit computer, then you will have to install a 32-bit system. You'll have to also download a 32-bit operating system. In my case, it's 64-bit, so I'm gonna stick to it, and I'll click on next. Okay, so this is where we decide how much RAM we are going to allocate to our virtual machine. So you can see that we have some green section, some orange section, and some red section. Okay, so red indicates that you're going to allocate a lot of RAM to your virtual machine, and your current computer might not work properly. So your actual system, the computer might start lagging or it won't function properly. So you should not allocate anything which is in the red zone. Orange is when your computer will lag a bit, but it might function correctly. So generally it's safe to give any value between this green zone. Okay, this is where you can safely allocate RAM to your virtual machine, and both your virtual machine and the computer will work fine. Okay, so in my case, since I have 16 GB of RAM, I'm going to allocate 4 GB for my virtual machine. You can allocate a minimum of 2 GB RAM, because Linux or Ubuntu will run smoothly, at least with a minimum RAM of 2 gigabytes. Okay, so this is it. I'm gonna create a RAM of 4 GB for my virtual machine, and I'll click on next. So this is where you have to attach a hard disk to your virtual machine. Okay, so you can select an option of not adding a hard disk right now, or you can use an existing hard disk. So for example, if there was a virtual machine that you were using earlier which has a lot of data, and due to some reasons you have you have shifted your computer, or this is a new machine but you still want to use the old VM, which is virtual machine, then you can use an existing hard disk as well. But as of now I don't have any, so I'll create a new one. Once I click on create, it's gonna ask me what file type do I want. So do I want a VDI, which is a VirtualBox disk image, or I want a VHD, or I want a VMDK. Okay, so the more information on this is there in my blog as to what these means. But just to give you a brief idea that VirtualBox is the default format of this software, VirtualBox disk image, and only VirtualBox will support this format. So if you create a hard disk with VDI, you cannot use the same hard disk with any other virtualization tool. Okay, on the other hand, VMDK is the most portable format, and if you want to have a compatibility, that is, you want to create a hard disk with VirtualBox, but you have to you want it to work with any other virtual machine or any other virtualization software, then probably you should go with VMDK. More details on this is there in my blog post. You can just go and check over there. Right now I'm just gonna stick to VirtualBox disk image. Okay, the default one. So I'll click on next, and this is where you have to tell the VirtualBox whether your hard disk will be of fixed size. That is, it will right away allocate XYZ amount of memory, or should it be dynamically allocated. So what do we mean by this is, the more and more you use your virtual machine, the more and more data it creates, accordingly it will allocate the space. Okay, so right now if you say I want a hard disk of 10 GB, it will not allocate 10 GB, but the way you use it, the more and more you use it, in that way it will start filling up those 10 GB. So you have to remember that if you are short on storage, then you can go with dynamically allocated, but it will be a little slower, because every time you create some data, VirtualBox has to dynamically allocate the memory first and then store data into it. So dynamically allocated hard disks are generally slower, but like I said, if you're short on storage, then this is a good option. But if you are not short on storage, you have ample amount of space on your hard disk, then I think you should go with fixed size because it gives you quite a good speed. Okay, but you remember that if you select 10 GB of hard disk and select a fixed size, immediately 10 GB of your hard disk space will be allocated for this virtual machine. So the choice is yours. In my case, I have ample amount of storage, so I'm just going to go with fixed size. I'll click on next, and this is where you decide what should be the size of your hard disk. So in my case, it's just going to be 10 gigabytes. Okay, that's I think sufficient. If you go with any number between 5 to 10, I think that's a good to go number. uh, let's go with 10, which is the default that VirtualBox gives us. You can also store your hard disk at some other location, but it's always preferred that you keep it in the same place where your virtual machine lies. Okay, so that the data of the virtual machine is all together. But yeah, you can choose some other location as well. So in my case, it's going to be the default one, and I'll just click on create. Now one more thing is dynamically allocated hard disk are created instantly, and the fixed size, it'll take some time. So once I click on create, this is going to take couple of minutes maybe, so we'll have to wait till this finishes. Okay, so you can see that the hard disk is created, and you can also see that the virtual machine is created. So this is the virtual machine that has been created for us. You can see couple of information here, like the name of the machine, the name of the operating system that it's probably expecting, the RAM that is allocated, and a couple of display options. You can see that the storage we created, it's we have a 10 GB of hard disk that's allocated. We also have a CD drive here, optical drive, which is empty right now. So these are few insights that you get about your machine in the home page. So we can create n number of machines here. You can have different operating systems installed on different machines. So there is no hard and fast rule as to how many machines you want to create, but just make sure that at a given instant, not all are running. Okay, if any one of the machine is running, then that's fine. That's not gonna eat up your computer resources. But don't switch on all the machines in one go, because then your computer might just hang. So in our case, we just have one machine, so that's not a concern for us. You can click on settings here, and you'll get lot other options to modify your virtual machine and to configure it the way you want. So right now I'm not going in depth of the settings or the tweaks that we can do with our VM. I'll just get to the part where we install operating system into it. So you can click on storage, and you can see that we have our hard disk here and the optical drive or the IDE controller here. So what I'm going to do is I'll click on this blue color CD disk that I can see here. I'll open the disk file. Okay, so it's in downloads. You can see this is where I'm going to insert this ISO file of my operating system into the optical drive of my virtual machine. So click on open, and just to confirm, you can see that right now I have two things. I have an hard disk in my computer, and I have also a CD drive, okay, in which there is an ISO file which is treated as a CD-ROM right now of Ubuntu. Okay, so I'll click on OK, and this is where I'll click on start. So once I click on start, my machine will boot. Okay, and obviously the first thing that it's going to do is, since it's not going to find anything in the hard disk, it's going to start the CD. Okay, so the ISO file that we have inserted in the optical drive, it's going to ask that whether you want to select that and start up your computer. So I'll just click on start because that's what I want. So once the ISO starts, it will give me an option of whether I should try Ubuntu or do I have to install it. So if you have tried installing Ubuntu on some computer previously, then there is a possibility that this might be a familiar scenario for you. But if not, then yeah, that's how it goes. So Ubuntu is basically a software that or operating system that gives you an option of trying it without even installing. So if you just want to try, if you just want to play around, you can do that. But whatever changes that you make while trying Ubuntu, they are not saved. It's all temporary. But yeah, that's a good feature just to check out the different things about the operating system and decide whether you really want to install or not. But in our case, we are pretty sure that we have to install Ubuntu. So I'm not gonna try it. I'll straight away go to the part where I'll install the operating system. So you can see that this is the screen where we will see a pop-up right now which will ask us what is to be done. So here it is. So we can try Ubuntu like I said, or we can just install. So you can try this, but without making, so this will not make any changes to your computer if you try it directly from this CD. Okay, so but if you install it, then the data is going to permanent. So let's start installing it. I'll click on install Ubuntu. Then I'll have to select my keyboard layout, so I'll keep it default, which is English US. You can also change your layout depending on what country you are in, or if you want some other layout for your keyboard. I'll just go with the default one. I'll click on continue. So this is where we decide the settings for the updates and software. Okay, so you can do a minimal installation of your operating system, or if you want all the facilities that the operating system has, like some of the utilities, the web browser, the media players and etc., you can do a normal installation. So if you're a very new user and you're new to Linux, basically I'll prefer that you go with normal installation. But if you know Linux and you have been using since a lot of time, and right now you just want a minimal installation and a good to go operating system, then you can go with this as well. In my case, I'll do a complete normal installation, and there are a few other options like, do you want to update your Ubuntu while installing? Okay, so this requires an internet connection. So if you have an internet connection and you tick this option, it's going to fetch all the latest updates and it's gonna install it. In my case, I'm gonna keep this option as ticked. Okay, because I do want all the security patches and the latest features of the operating system, so I'll update it definitely. But if you tick this, then obviously depending on your internet speed, the installation will take time because it has to fetch all the updates and then install it. So if you untick this, it's gonna save time. Okay, uh, so this is one more thing wherein it asks you whether you want to install some software for graphics and for Wi-Fi hardware and some other media formats, but this will be a third-party software and nothing that the Ubuntu is giving you. Okay, so it's your choice whether to install or not. In my case, I'm going to install that as well, and I'll click on continue. So after this settings of how do you want your Ubuntu to be installed, uh, we are going to have the next step where it will basically ask us what type of installation we want to do. Okay, so whether we want to erase the disk and install Ubuntu, or we want to do something else. So generally, if you are dual booting, this is what you will prefer. You'll prefer something else because you don't want to delete your current operating system, right? So you'll click on something else, you'll create partitions and other stuffs. But since it's a virtual machine and there is nothing in that 10 GB of the hard disk that we have allocated, we can just safely erase the disk and install Ubuntu. Okay, and the best part is whatever we do in this virtual machine, it's not going to affect the current like the real machine of ours. Okay, so this is a very safe thing, and you can definitely erase the disk and install Ubuntu. So it's not going to install sorry, it's not going to erase anything on your computer, so you can be safe and just click on install now. So it's gonna ask for confirmation. If there is anything that you feel Ubuntu is doing wrong, then you can just go back. In our case, like I said, it's a virtual machine, so there is no harm in actually proceeding. So I'll just click on continue. But if it was a dual booting thing, or you had just created some partitions, so this is a very good info wherein you understand what exactly are we doing. But right now it's not our concern, so I can just click on continue. It's like a confirmation page of what all things are gonna happen. So what all partitions we have and which partitions are gonna be formatted and stuffs like that. But in our case, yeah, we are good to go. So we can click on continue, and I think it's gonna ask us for a time zone. I'm not wrong. So yeah, here it is where we have to put our time zone. So right now I stay in India, so I'm gonna choose Kolkata and I'll click on continue. So you can select the time zone that you want. So these are our personal details that we have to put in our computer, so we can have our own name to the computer. So I'll just type my name here, and we have to also choose the username and the name of the computer. So my username is going to be this, and my computer's name, I don't want it so long. I'm just gonna make it VB, which is nothing but a abbreviation for VirtualBox. And let's also remove all this. Okay, so I have my name, I have my computer's name, I have a username for my computer, and I'll have to just put some password. Okay, so once you have entered all the details, you can just proceed. Make sure you remember all the details, because these are important things. If you want to note it down, you can also keep a notepad with the passwords and the username. So I'll just continue right now. So this is where it will actually start installing Ubuntu on your hard disk. So when I say hard disk, I am again not talking about your computer's hard disk, but the virtual hard disk that we created right now, which is of 10 GB. It's going to start installing the operating system into that particular space, which is your virtual hard disk. So it's going to take time depending on your computer specifications, and since we have already ticked that I want to install the updates as well, so depending on your internet speed as well, it's going to take some time. Okay, so you can see that the installation is completed, and it will ask you to restart your computer. So again, this is not going to restart your computer, but it will restart the virtual machine. Okay, so I'm just going to click on restart now, and let's see what happens. So you can see that it is giving us a message that please remove the installation medium and then press enter. So whatever installation medium, whatever installation thing that you used, it could be a USB, it could be a CD-ROM. So whatever medium you had used for installing Ubuntu, it's asking you to remove that and then continue. So in our case, since we were using this CD-ROM, okay, obviously a virtual one, and we had inserted the ISO, we'll have to remove that. But VirtualBox is smart enough, and it has already removed it for you, so we don't have to explicitly do anything here. We can just press enter and continue. So this is, so right now it's going to start your operating system from the hard disk and not from the ISO. So this ISO file that you had downloaded, it's of no use, you can say. You can just safely delete it, because the operating system is already installed in the virtual hard disk. So every time it's gonna start from the hard disk, and this ISO is no longer needed, so you can safely delete it. So let the computer boot, and we'll log in into it, and we'll check if everything is working fine. So you can see that whatever name you must have given for your computer, it'll reflect here. You'll have to put the same password that you had used while creating this installation. Okay, so I have logged in into the Ubuntu, and we should see some welcome message and all of those stuff. So you can see that it says welcome to Ubuntu and it's asking you to log in into some accounts. I'll just skip all this for now. You can later on just configure your system the way you want it. So this is where you decide whether to send some info to the developers or not. So you can just opt out if you are very strict about the privacy, or you can just help them with minimal information which helps them to develop Ubuntu further. So I'll just keep it as yes and I'll click on next. And these are few other settings. I'll just skip it. I'll click on done. And this is the desktop. Okay, this is where this is the main desktop of Ubuntu. You can see that I have some softwares installed already. We have Firefox, we have Thunderbird, email client, we have a file browser, we have some music players and stuff like that. And if you double click on this is your home. Okay, where you have all the other files. You have downloads, you have musics and other stuffs. One more thing which is important is the terminal. So you can see that I have this terminal. So this is what people generally prefer if they are using Linux. So I'll just type some command and let's check if it's working fine. So you can see I've used ls to list out all the possible files that are there, and I'm also checking which directory I'm in. So there's a few commands in Linux. Obviously this video is not for teaching you the commands of Linux, but I was just testing if everything is working fine. So you can see that the installation is done completely, and now what you can do is you can use Ubuntu the way you want, and whatever changes you make here, whatever files you delete here or create here, they are not going to affect your original computer. Okay, so it's a safe environment to experiment. You can do a lot of stuffs that you want. If your operating system goes corrupt or something bad happens, all you have to do is just delete the virtual machine and create a new one. So it's a very good environment to experiment, especially for someone who is new to Linux, who wants to learn something, or for students also. This is a very helpful tool. So one common thing that everybody asks is that how do I use it in the full screen? This is what everybody has a question, and it's one of the common questions that I've come across. So what you have to do is you have to use your right control of your keyboard and press F. Okay, and you can see a message. It says that your virtual machine window will now be switched to a full screen mode. Okay, so it will take your your virtual machine to a full screen, and you can just opt out of full screen by pressing the host plus F. And right now your host key is nothing but the right control. Remember, you cannot press left control and it won't work, because that's not the host key. The host key by default is the right control, so you have to press right control and F to go into the full screen mode and to come out of it. So for now I'll just switch, which is I'll go to the full screen mode. So you can see that right now I'm into the full screen mode. I don't have all the other options around me, the VirtualBox specific options. But the overall screen is still small, right? It's not occupying the complete screen space. So what you can do is you can go to settings and you can go to display. Okay, and select a proper resolution that your computer screen has. Okay, so I think in my case, I don't know, let's check about this. Should go correctly. Okay, so this works fine. I'll keep the changes. So you can see that in my case this resolution works fine for my screen. Everything is in a proper aspect ratio as well, and yeah, so this is how I can use my Ubuntu in full screen mode. You can just come out of it by pressing right control and F again. So this is how you can come out of the full screen mode, and you can use your normal computer as well, or you can again go into the full screen mode by pressing the same control F. So yeah, this is about installing VirtualBox on your Windows 10 and installing Ubuntu on top of it. And I hope that you like this video. Okay, so if you have any issues or you come across some difficulties, you can definitely comment in this video, or you can go to my blog post, check for a few FAQs. If you find the answers over there, great. If not, then you can comment on my blog post as well, and I'll try and answer as many questions as possible. Okay, so feel free to ask, feel free to share if there is something that you want to mention that I missed out. Probably I'm open for all the feedback. Just before going, I'll like to mention that okay, but before that, let me just shut down this. So I'll click on power off. It will shut down the virtual machine, and yeah, so So one thing I like to mention is that when you install the software and if you click on settings and if you see some error here which says invalid settings in system and acceleration, then this probably means that the virtualization is either not present on your computer or it's disabled. Okay, so if you come across this issue, I'll request you to please check my blog post and check for the FAQ section, and over there you will find the solution for this. So if virtualization is enabled, then you won't see that message and everything will work fine. But if that's disabled in your BIOS, then you'll see an error of invalid settings and you'll have to turn it on before you can actually use this technology of virtualization and create virtual machines on your computer. So one good thing is that you can use this video as a reference to install other operating systems. Like you can try other flavors of Linux like CentOS, you can try Fedora, you can try Kali Linux, or the other things as well. So you can create a number of new machines here. You can install many operating systems and experiment with it. Okay, so if you like the video, just hit the like button and do subscribe to my channel, and just drop few more suggestions on what other tutorials or videos that you want. I'll pick up good suggestions and I'll make videos on them. If you want to know more in depth of how do we exactly work with Linux, or how do we use this software of VirtualBox, how can we configure it or personalize it, then let's see, I'll make a video for that as well, and stay tuned till then. Thank you. Bye.